This podcast is brought to you by Bird's Basement, the premier music dinner and supper club in Melbourne. And now, please welcome your host, entrepreneur and jazz guitarist, Albare.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bird's Basement. So we started doing the podcast. It's turned into a video cast now. And very soon we're going to be also broadcasting all shows that are happening here at Bird's Basement through our app. But more of that another day. I'd like to introduce you to the guy that you came to from far away to see, and he comes from even further away. That's James Carter.
Good evening, everybody.
So James, we
How's it going, man?
we don't take it for granted that you and many like you come to Bird's Basement from so far away. You traveled from Detroit?
Actually, my band traveled from Detroit. I traveled from New York this particular juncture.
So how are you feeling now?
Oh, always in a cozy condition here. This is my second time here at the basement, and I really enjoy the band, of course, and then, of course, the people. To be able to reconnect with so many people that I've grown to be extended family over the years is just a treat in and of itself.
So I feel really honored to have you. And as I said before, we're not taking it for granted at all. Thank you for traveling. Ladies and gentlemen, give this man a round of applause, please. So you know those guys, they're real troopers. They jump out of the plane, they come play a week and then go back home. Yeah. So that's love of the music. So how did your musical journey started, James?
Well, to begin with, for those who don't know, I was born January 3rd, 1969. I'm the youngest of five in my family, 2 brothers and 2 sisters, all of which are musically inclined. And so being the baby of the family, I'd grown up with brothers and sisters, and also my mother, who I feel is pretty much the active, or was the active musician in our family. She played violin and piano in her formative years. And my dad, rest his soul, played mean radio, where he would basically have the greats such as B.B. King and T-Bone Walker. Those are like the dynamic duo. Nothing else would play on his radio except for those individuals, because they were just the soulfulest, prophets ever at that particular time.
So at what stage did you know that you were going to become a professional musician and that was going to be your life?
Well, once again, this goes back to my siblings, and in particular my 2 brothers, who would basically play like cabarets and various other social events in and around the Detroit area. And I would just watch them get dressed, get ready for the hit. I'd watch them also rehearse downstairs in the basement and in the garage as well. So and I was just totally enamored by everything that they were doing.
You were joining in?
I was the pest. I was one always reaching for the mic, and they, "Ma, come get James up in there, get him out of here. He's messing us up." And I'm up there wanting to sing with them, and they actually let me sing on one of their, it was like a pool party or something like that one of my brothers did, and I sang Midnight at the Oasis. I was like less than 10 years old or something like that at the time. But as far as the saxophone coming into my life, I feel that the saxophone chose me. I really didn't choose it, because it happened in a series of revelations, and eventually
that sounds too interesting to just skip over it. Can we know a bit more?
Well, I first heard the saxophone as a result of hanging with my mom doing her chores, because she would always listen to jazz radio, and as a result, it was the only time that I'd ever see Mom cool, where she most of the time she's like yelling at my other, my sisters and brothers, and just, "Go get the hell out of here." But when she come on, and Billie Holiday, Carmen McRae, Sarah Vaughan, Billy Eckstine in particular. Oh God, Billy Eckstine was like her usher, so to speak. I mean, and to actually see, I was very privileged when I was 11 years old to see Count Basie. It was one of his last concerts in the Detroit area at the music hall, and Billy Eckstine was his special guest. So, I mean, I identified with everything that Count Basie was playing, and but when Billy Eckstine came on the stage and Count said, we're going to introduce this young man here, you know, his name is Billy Eckstine. They started playing the opening strings to Jelly Jelly, and he came out, hello, baby. She was, I thought Mom was going to lose. First off, we were up in the balcony. And so as soon as Billy came out there, she was like, leaning over, oh, Billy, sing it, Billy. And I'm just looking like, this is my mom up here losing it, like, and I didn't know whether she was getting ready to like, here it come, Billy, like. But it was really close to that because she was like, yes, sing it. And to want to be in my mom's element and to be responsible for that that particular vibe going on instead of being on the other side of, you know, catching her wrath, I think that was one of the things that certainly got me into this music, and one of the proponents of this particular music was the instrument that I heard right after the vocalist would sing, and it was, I'd find out later, the saxophone.
And when you were playing, your mom was transformed. She was transcending.
Yeah, she would, oh, I know that tune, and this, that, and other, and yeah, baby, and you know.
So now I can get how you would want to please your mom, and I think that's all to your credit anyway. With me, it was a little bit different. My mom gave me a guitar instead of giving me an accordion, which I wanted. That's a different story. That's a different story.
So did you did Gus Viseur and those cats
well,
back
and
then?
she told me it was an accordion too, trying to manipulate me. And as we compare, not before, our moms are nearly the same age, same generation.
Yes.
So, and James, I also know that you've been touring now for over 30 years. So you started touring as a young man. But, you know, in all those touring time, if I ask you to remember one moment, what's the first thing that would come to mind? A moment that really marked you during the touring time? It could be a funny thing, or it could be something dramatic. Anything comes to mind?
The first thing that pops to mind was I was under the auspices of the late Lester Bowie, and I was touring with his New York organ ensemble. The very first time I was at the North Sea Jazz Festival when it was in The Hague back in 1991, and Ground Zero was the Hotel Bel Air, and as soon as I went into the lobby, just to see the cross-section of stars and musicians that were there checking in, hanging out. Hey, baby, I ain't seen you in a long time. See Herbie over here, Chick over there, and various other people, Carmen McRae. Oh, God, not to mention the fact that I was with Lester in the first place, and just to run into so many different heroes and just to be rubbernecking like, oh, God, don't you know who you are? God, that's you, and this, oh, God. I mean, it was...
You felt part of the scene.
Yes.
Yeah.
It truly belonged.
Yeah.
I aligned myself with them just by being in their presence, to be able to talk with them and to, you know,
but
have
you played
that personal
with
rapport.
so many of them since then. You played with Marcellus?
Well, the thing is that to be able, once again, to have that audience, you know, it's one thing to hear them at a concert and, you know, you can't get backstage, or to, you know, hear them in a radio interview or something like that, but to be like right here and to, hey man, to give that up to them, saying, you know, thank you for being a part of the soundtrack of my life, thank you for being an inspiration, and to hopefully be able to be that inspiration for somebody else later on. Just to be a part of that beautiful
That's
osmosis.
a true blessing.
Yes.
True blessing. Absolutely. I know also that you collect a lot of saxophones. Apparently you've got a whole heap of them.
I do.
Is that
Okay.
true? You know, what's the criteria for a saxophone to be bought by you? If some dealer out there wants to call you to offer you a saxophone, what does he need to know?
First off, I've been endorsing the company P. Moriat out of Taipei, Taiwan for, it'll be the 12th year this September. And they make very good saxophones. They use great metal, they use great care in putting the instruments together. It doesn't hurt that the company is also run by a president who plays the saxophone himself. You know, as opposed to just somebody that's just a bean counter. He actually takes the time to learn the saxophone. He makes pilgrimages over to Boston and New York to jam and to also study at Berkeley and various other institutions. So he keeps this thing together as well. And he also keeps in touch with the musicians to for them to let him know, you know, your horns like this, you need that, this, that, and other. So he gets, you know, feedback, and he winds up implementing them and successive models later on.
But so, do you own a saxophone that was played by John Coltrane, for instance? That sort of things. Do you look for that?
Well, things like that are pretty much a bonus. Once again, that's another one of those rites of passages. If a horn winds up being a good bargain, of course, you can't ever knock, you know, a bargain. But another thing is that sometimes with bargains, they need to be repaired, and I think that also is very attractive to me as well, to be able to be that catalyst to help that instrument get repaired and to also get back into the game, so to speak, back to its former prowess. You know, regulation and all that is a helpful tool for me to acquire something, and I don't know, right. It's a feeling, it's a vibe, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's a good thing to collect. I collect art. When it comes to guitar, I'm a utilitarian. If I don't use it anymore, I get rid of it.
Exactly.
I don't have much feelings for guitar. It's funny, isn't it?
Well, I got feelings for my horns and all that. Yeah. Some of them I actually buy, you know, cheap to be able to fix them up myself and save on the repair and to turn them around at a profit.
Well, do that if it's got a good sound, but if the moment I don't like the sound anymore, I just get rid of it. Tell me, how is your show? What can we expect? That's the second time you're here. So the first time you had a fantastic week. What can we expect this week?
Well, I would say definitely more of the same. We expanded our repertoire. The last time that we were here, we were dealing with the music of Django Reinhardt, which we'll probably deal with as well, but also we'll deal with quite a few other things as well. Some standards, some other originals, some just we're spinning the wheel. And it just depends on whatever the art of the moment dictates.
Okay, why not? So tell me, who are those musicians that are coming with you?
My home shopping network from Detroit, who happens to be sitting up front here. In the blue here is our organist, Mr. Gerard Gibbs.
Gerard, he's amazing.
And our multiple percussionists, a.k.a. the drums. Yes, indeedy. This is Mr. Alex White.
Hey, Alex. And so, for those present here, you noticed already we've got a screen on each side of the stage, and we used to only bring them down for a special occasion, and now we decided we're going to have them permanently down. So if you are sitting in a funny angle, you can always watch the screen, but the music that comes to you is live, and what you see on the screen is equally live. Can I ask you to tell our friends where can they find you on Facebook, on Twitter?
Well, definitely on Facebook and also on our individual websites. Mine's is jamescarterlive.com. And Gerard?
Just Facebook, Gerard Gibbs.
Gerard Gibbs?
Gerard Gibbs.
Yes. Gerard
Alex!
Gibbs.
I have too many.
Yes, too many. Then it's easy. We Google you.
Yes, the website is adwmusic.com.
adwmusic.com. I'm repeating because you don't have a microphone.
Yes. Alex White on Facebook.
Alex White on Facebook.
Yes, and MIN_drums.
MIN_drums.
On Instagram.
In Instagram, great. And you have a Twitter? Do you tweet? You're not like your president?
Not as he ain't my president.
Well, you're in Australia here.
But I'm eventually going to start tweeting and, you know.
You could be the next president. Why, wouldn't that be cool? That would be great. That would be great, James. Ladies and gentlemen, James Carter.
Thank you all.
He will be on stage very soon.